It is Wednesday, February 11th, 2015. Welcome to the Alien Invasion number 133. It's a presentation of GalacticNetcast.com. Joining me, as always, for the past 25 years, Brad Ludwig and Nelson Moynes, both in Wausau, Wisconsin there. How you guys doing?
Back in my day.
See, if nothing, it brings out the old man voice, and I'm all in favor of that.
I'm glad the old man voice entertains you, Dave.
Yes.
It is pretty awesome.
One of my favorite things in the world, as it is for Nessa as well, I think. As long as it's not being used in other areas that it shouldn't be used. And I'm not going to go any further than that.
Oh, hey, nope.
Okay.
I missed what he said, so I'm just not going to ask.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. This is the show. Welcome to the podcast that talks about aliens, extraterrestrials, and all their things, all their shenanigans. If it's aliens in film, TV, video games, comic books, science, real life, wherever aliens are in the universe, we talk about them, and we talk about them in three areas. The news, the craft corner, that's the spotlight of a certain kind of alien spacecraft, and our pick for the week. If you want to watch us do the show live, follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Google+, and you'll get a notification if you follow us in your timeline or whatever, letting you know when we're going live, or just watch us later on at youtube.com/GalacticNetcasts. So, if you guys are ready, we're kind of on a timeline tonight. We're running a little bit late, so it may be more hurriedly as more than it usually is. So let's get the show on the road. Start it with the news.
In the news.
Anessa, are you ready to start, or do you want to delay a little bit longer?
No, I'll go ahead and start.
Okay, jump in.
All right. So, undiscovered photos, which are said to show a humanoid alien creature found near Roswell in a crashed spacecraft in 1947, are to be unveiled this May. UFO sites such as Inquisitor describe the, quote, Roswell slides images as a, quote, smoking gun, which proves that aliens exist. The pictures were supposedly found in an envelope in an attic left by a geologist who worked near Roswell in the 1940s. The slides will be unveiled in a ceremony by UFO researcher Tom Carey, broadcast live from the 10,000-seat National Auditorium, Mexico City, on May 5th. Researcher Anthony Baraglia says, "What is depicted is really there, accurately reflected in the emulsion of, or as an actual moment in time in 1947. Science has weighed in and has determined that these are real slides that are really from 1947. The only conclusion? This humanoid is not a deformed person, mummy, dummy, simian, or dead serviceman. It is not a creature that finds its origin on Earth." Nigel Watson, which I believe he was in last week's story that I covered. But anyway, Nigel Watson, author of the UFO Investigations Manual, says that other ufologists are more skeptical. Watson says, "There is already a considerable amount of cynicism and skepticism about these pictures, especially since we have been promised the real evidence for the Roswell crash in the past, and they have turned out to be fakes and hoaxes. The so-called alien autopsy films of the recovered aliens from the crash, although very graphic, are now admitted to be reenactments of the real film that got lost or destroyed. So that evidence is useless, though still hotly debated in some quarters of ufology." As for these latest pictures, well, the skeptics are out in force. One of the major niggles is that they are not being shown until the May 5th convention, or the conference in Mexico. As one YouTube commenter puts it, "I can see they are milking this thing for everything they can possibly get. While claiming you were vetting authenticity of the slides, you were actually focused on the more important human aspect of the whole situation. The bottom line, swinging a Mexican conference with all the major UFO players, international live streaming pay-per-view, a documentary, a book, advanced booking at all major UFO symposiums, merchandising, mass multimedia platform, social networking, and don't forget merchandising, because we haven't mentioned that before. Kodachrome, I believe is the name of the conference. Kodachrome T-shirts, an alien sticker included with the $350 one-day conference entrance pre-order. Ka-ching! Well, at least you have your priorities in order. This continued speculation reinforces the concept of the Roswellian syndrome put forward by Joe Nickell and James Magaha. They note that there are 5 main stages to this myth-making process. Number 1, the incident. This is the event that initially triggers the crash retrieval rumors. 2, debunking. The recovered wreckage is quickly given a mundane explanation. 3, submergence. The story lingers in the fading memories and speculation of the local population. 4, mythologizing. Mythologizing. As time passes, faulty memory, exaggeration, and deliberate hoaxing comes into play.
Hey Nessa, I have to mythologize. I'm sorry.
BRB mythologizing.
You're excused.
All right. And while Dave mythologizes, he's eventually going to come back with number 5, the re-emergence and media bandwagon effect. The story resurfaces in the media and takes on a life of its own. This process also plays out with other crash retrieval cases and UFO incidents. Roswell is only the tip of the iceberg, as there have been nearly 300 alleged flying saucer crashes throughout the world since 1947. Like the Roswell incident, they became more spectacular and mysterious as time passes.
So what you're saying is this is the pattern for every single major UFO or supposed major UFO crash. This is all this is like the stages of grief, right?
It's like the 5 stages of grief, but it's the 5 stages of mythologizing. And really, if you think about it, this can be applied to more than just UFO crashes. It can be like Bigfoot sightings, maybe, or Loch Ness, or just any backwoods monster or event. Even a random house fire. If the conditions were right, you could probably turn that into a big myth as well. So,
a small part of that is the whole. It reminds me of the old telephone game where.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah, where you whisper in the first person's ear and you're like, "I like rubber ducks." And then, it kind of stays the same for the first person or two. And then
you get purple monkey dishwasher.
Exactly, by the last person. It's like purple monkey dishwasher. And you're like, but I said I like rubber ducks.
So that seems to be something that happens in these cases. It's like it was maybe a crashed so-and-so, but then somebody thinks they say crashed UFO, and there was a body, but it wasn't a body of an alien originally. It was a body of a serviceman. So it's, I could totally see how that would happen.
Yeah, and like you can experience an event, and years down the road, you might misremember a couple of details, and you'll not maybe on purpose. It's potentially not, intentional, but you're misremembering, and you repeat the story, and instead of having it be a small craft. Well, it was a medium-sized craft that crashed. And there was debris everywhere, and it really could have just been, a couple of pieces that broke away from the craft or whatever object you're talking about.
The longer that we do this podcast, I think the more skeptical we're all becoming. We've covered so much of this, right?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about this stuff, so... Yeah, it would be kind of difficult not to become a skeptic, I would think, if you talk about this on a weekly basis. And read stories because, you know, you're looking at multiple stories before you decide to do one. So, yeah, it's just crazy.
I watched this show that's been on pretty regularly every week since for about a month now. It takes a look at different UFO incidences, and they focused on Roswell this last episode, and it was the most convinced I've been after watching this that Roswell was not UFO. It was not a UFO. It was not aliens. It's they almost got me. I'm this close to not believing that story anymore for some reason. I don't know.
There's no shame in that, Dave.
My favorite part of this whole story is the word niggles.
Ah, yes. I started thinking about Arrow and Diggle.
Yeah. Yeah. Now this is from a UK website, Metro.
Yes, it's from metro.co.uk. Same from last week, same source. And I was reading the story, and I'm like, hey, he was in last week's story, the Nigel Watson dude. So
Maybe
yeah.
it's Nigel making up a word on his own. Nigel.
Actually, no. Because I was curious about the word, so I tried looking it up. And what comes up in Google says, cause slight but persistent annoyance, discomfort, or anxiety. A suspicion, an example, a suspicion niggled at the back of her mind. I really like that word. I think I'm going to start using that now.
All right, cool. Let's move on. We are on a deadline here, so Brad, get us into story number 2.
I would love to. Story number 2. I found this in the Huffington Post, and this made me laugh out loud because normally you hear stories about somebody finding it's a miracle. There's Jesus on my piece of toast that I put in the toaster, right? You see things
Yes.
like that. Well, this is a hotel owner finds tree stump that looks like E.T.
And he phoned home immediately.
Well, he phoned somebody because it got in the Huffington Post. Billy Hartley went out to cut up some wood, and he had no idea he would see an ET. Harley owns the Uig Hotel in. I'm probably totally massacring that. Folks from the UK can write us and tell me how horrible I am at pronouncing that. This is on the Scottish Isle of Skye. And he was chopping some logs for the fireplace when he noticed that one of the stumps looked amazingly like E.T. from Steven Spielberg's classic 1982 film E.T. the Extraterrestrial. Quote, I put the chainsaw through a trunk, and there was E.T. staring back at me. I phoned home, and my wife brought a camera out to take some pictures. The stump has now attracted international attention for the hotel, and Harley is hoping to capitalize on the exposure some way, somehow.
It's not just Jesus that can do this.
No.
E.T. can do it
Steven
too.
Spielberg can do this. Behold the power of Steven Spielberg. Another quote here. We're not quite sure what to do now. We could turn E.T. into a coffee table or a bar stool. Who wants to sit on E.T.'s face? Okay, I'm going to leave that. The Harleys are considering naming one of the rooms after the famous alien in hopes it will attract visitors to the aptly named Isle of Skye, hoping to see if anyone from outer space comes to pick up their lost tree stump. Oh, Lord, there's so many puns in this thing. At the risk of alienating people, it should be noted that the stump, now known as E-tree, may be more of yet another example of pareidolia, rather than signs of life beyond the stars. Now, what is pareidolia? Pareidolia is a human being's ability to look at shapes and basically turn them into faces. It's what gets people to go, oh, this birthmark, it looks like Jesus, or this looks like Gandhi, or this looks like E.T. Our brains are hardwired to recognize faces. And unfortunately, it can be tricked by things that aren't actually faces but are representational of a face. And that's why when people look at very grainy pictures of things, it's like, oh, that's, I mean, looking at like some UFO pictures or pictures of Bigfoot and things like that. We try to assign a face or something to an image that we see, and that's what's happening here.
Or like on Mars, they always claim to see, or there's a picture of an alien on Mars, or or humans are already there. There's something man-made. They're seeing that kind of pattern as well, right?
Yeah. I mean, I'm kind of misspeaking a little bit. It's related. We try to, not only do our brains want to do facial recognition and do it very well, but we also find patterns in things. So, like like when people would stare. There was a day when there was no digital television and television waves went over the air, and you had static when they didn't broadcast anything, and people would stare at screens and say they saw faces and all sorts of different objects. And that's what the human brain does. It will try to make patterns of things that are recognizable to it, and that's just the deal. So that's how things like that happen. So anyway,
our brain's always trying to organize our universe. Basically.
Yeah, we need to assign meaning to things, and that's just that's man's constant quest for knowledge and putting things in their appropriate container, as it were, knowledge-wise. Anyways, we'll have there's a quote from Dr. Kang Lee, who's a psychologist from the University of Toronto, who talks a little bit more about it. And there's more links to this thing. You can check it out in the show notes that we'll have with the link to the podcast here.
Excellent. All right, Brad. Good stuff.
I was trying to see if I could find the tree stump on the Ewig Hotel's website, but
there's no picture of it? This is just a story without a picture of the actual stump?
Oh! Gosh, I didn't
look at the story, but I was curious if this was something that they would include on their website.
I feel bad because, yes, I did pull up. Hang on, let me do the screen share here real quick. There we go. So here it is. If you were looking at the video version of this show, here it is. The stump, and there's the eyes of E.T. There's the he's sort of chinless, as it were. So this almost looks like a little bit of, maybe his head is trailing back into where the neck would be. That's where the nose would be. That's a soft bump on the top of his head. So I mean, they definitely make a case here that does kind of look like E.T.
Kind of.
I see it.
I see it, but now.
Elliot.
E.T. phone home.
All right.
So it's not on their website, at least not right now. So
E.T. right in the face.
But it looks like a nice little place, nice little area. If people are interested in going to the Scottish Highlands.
Yeah, maybe by the time that you make reservations and get there, they will have that made into a coffee table.
That would be nice, like a little, even just a side table for the sofa or chair.
Yeah. All right.
I don't know how big the trees are. They don't look too horribly huge.
Yeah,
so.
You really can't get the scale of it, can you? Really?
No, you really can't with the picture.
But looking at the trees in the surrounding areas, it's like a bunch of pine trees and stuff, so it's not going to be incredibly thick.
Okay. All right, final news story, and this is kind of a follow-up to something that we talked about a few weeks ago. Remember that Neill Blomkamp releasing all those concept art pieces of his idea for a alien movie?
Yep.
Well, it turns out it was more real than we thought. Over a month ago, like I said, District 9 and Elysium director Neill Blomkamp showed off some concept art he made for a possible new alien movie, but it was unofficial. So did he just do it for fun, or was there ever a time when he was in the running to direct a new installment of the franchise? And that's something that I think we brought up when we talked about the story last time. Like, we were wondering, we were kind of thinking out loud why he was doing what he was doing.
Typically, you wouldn't do that unless money was coming your way, because that's time out of... I mean, a director lives hand to mouth. He lives job to job.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's a lot of factors involved here. While he was out promoting Chappie, his brand new movie, again with what's his face doing the voice of Chappie, that guy that's in all of his movies, the guy that was in District 9.
Oh, Copley.
Yeah, Charlton Copley.
Charlton Copley. Yep.
So while he was out promoting the movie, Collider.com got a chance to sit down with him to get a little bit more clarification on that situation. So this is what Blomkamp told them. He said, there was a reason I wanted to make that film. I still may make that film. It may happen. But it did. But I did it on my own time. Like when Chappie was winding down in post and I had available time, I started to work on it. It was also from talking to Sigourney Weaver, who was in Chappie during the making of this. I mean, I asked her about Alien all the time. Alien and Aliens are my favorite films. So he's like a fanboy of the Alien films, and he's like bugging her the whole time while they're filming.
Yeah,
so,
I bet.
what was it like when the chest bursting scene happened? Did it gross you out? Remember that time that you? I'm doing that Chris Farley thing from Saturday Night Live.
Oh.
So he goes on to say, so I genuinely wanted to make that film. I came up with the story. I came up with way more art than I put out. So he's got more art kind of waiting in the can there. And I never officially spoke to Fox about it, but Fox wanted to make it. So I don't understand that part. So I kind of touched on it and didn't know what to do. I didn't know if it was just going to leave. See, this is the weird part of this whole, what he said. And I didn't know if I was just going to go leave directing for a whole bunch of time, and then I was like, I might as well put some art out, but I may make it. I don't know. That's where it stands. So he may or may not make this film someday, basing it off this concept art that he did in his spare time while filming or wrapping up filming of Chappie. So what do you guys think it means that Fox wants to do it, but he never actually talked to them? I'm a little bit confused by that.
Maybe it was he talked a good game, and they went, huh, we hadn't really thought about it, but maybe.
That could be it, because, I mean, look at Vin Diesel. I mean, he was like, I'm totally going to be the voice of Groot.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they hadn't even approached him or anything. And then they're like, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah,
Let's make him the
enough
voice
people
of
went,
Groot.
that's brilliant! And they went, that's brilliant!
That kind of thing's happening more and more lately. Like, there's that whole campaign online to get, what's-his-face from Community to be Miles Morales in the new Spider-Man movie.
Oh, Donald Glover.
Yeah.
Childish Gambino.
Yeah, and then there's the girl that's going to play in the new X-Men movie, and that kind of happened because of a meme. So.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I really think, and I've read this in a couple of reports, that social media is driving a lot of word. I mean, more so than newspaper advertising or radio advertising or TV advertising. Not to knock those mediums, but for the audience that they are trying to reach, they're not necessarily in those more traditional mediums, but they are definitely on the internet. And if they put their quote-unquote internet ear to the ground and there's enough groundswell for, that's brilliant, they seem to be taking that a lot more seriously now. So.
No, it's almost automatic. It's like almost an automatic gauge of what people want.
Yeah.
In the old days, you'd have to get feedback from them in some more traditional way, and this is almost like just look at the trends on Twitter and see what people are talking about or what they're interested in.
And it's kind of like getting instant feedback because, you know, they may be thinking, oh, who would be good for this? And let's see what social media is saying. And they're like, man, everybody's for so-and-so making this or so-and-so playing this role. So it's like free audience survey right there.
Exactly. And I was thinking while we were talking about this that maybe he heard through somebody, like one of his guys, that Fox was interested. Maybe they saw it. Maybe they saw it on his Twitter account, and and got in touch with, or somebody told somebody else, and the person that Neill knows heard it through them or something like that. I don't know.
Sure.
Yep.
We'll see what happens. All right, so that is it for the news. Let's move on to the next portion of the show, which is this right here.
Please identify the craft you witnessed.
A black, triangular, three-dimensional shape, huge, just flying, hovering, and it
shaped like almost like between an egg and like a teardrop.
Two long cylinder objects flying over me. It had a dome. I could see the occupants in it.
appeared to be rotating, and it was on circular to disc shape, and it hovered for maybe about 5 minutes.
All right. That long, drawn-out thing means it's time for the Craft Corner on Spotlight of a certain kind of craft in either history or fictitious history. And what do you got for us this time, Brad?
Well, this one's a little weird. I'm looking through this particular page, and we've talked about a lot of these crafts here. But one that we haven't really touched on yet is probably the strangest, I think, of all of them. And it's a craft shape called the train. Now, I'm going to be putting up a picture here, and again, this is a more visual thing, so I apologize to our more audio-based listeners, but you can go to YouTube and check us out on the Galactic Netcasts page there on YouTube and check out the video. To see this thing, and we'll have the link in the show notes as well. So this craft, it's very rare, and there's not enough data that has been accumulated to give it its general configuration because it's we'll see some pictures here, and it's very, very unusual. This particular craft is noisy, called the Sky Train, and in one of the appearances of this thing, it was described as being like a noisy sky train moving slowly with sudden acceleration. This particular person says that they're they look at the sky a lot because they're an amateur astronomer, and this craft came out from where they were out. They were outside, and this particular one is their son was losing at a baseball game. So this is being witnessed by other people as well. Walked away from the field and looked above an area of trees, and the craft came from their left in a southerly from a southerly direction, heading north. And the best way they said that they could describe it was a sky train. This craft was perhaps... Sorry, I thought I had to sneeze. I didn't want to sneeze in everybody's ear.
Thank you.
This craft was perhaps 200 yards long, but only perhaps 30 feet wide. It was at an elevation of perhaps 200 feet and was rather noisy. The noise was a rhythmic humming. There were multiple sections, very much like the cars of a train, and they were all illuminated with greenish and yellow lights. It was moving rather slowly, perhaps 50 miles per hour, but once it cleared the tree line, it accelerated dramatically. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to do screen share here.
And again, you can see this on our YouTube page, youtube.com/galacticnetcasts. Whoa!
Yeah.
Holy crap.
That's what I said.
That's cool.
So in this lower image here, I'm going to try to describe this as best I can. It's the larger of the three images on this page, and it is off to the upper left-hand corner, probably within the first left-hand third of the image. It's moving what looks to be, appears to be over a building, like a large apartment complex building. And imagine two, what's the best way to describe this? Think of a string of Christmas tree lights. And this automatically makes it go, oh, it's probably Christmas tree lights. But it looks sort of like this. Imagine a string of Christmas lights where you have lights that are pointing in one direction, lights are pointing in the other direction, and they're, what's the best way to describe that? They're kind of shifted so it's like light, space, and the opposite side, it's space, light. You know what I'm saying? It's interspersed,
it makes me, well, especially with that one image, it looks a lot like a zigzag if you think about it. It's like you have...
Yeah, if you were to connect the dots, it would look like a
dots with like a light pencil.
Yeah.
Go back and forth. That's what it looks like to me.
You know, this reminds me. It reminds me of the big Chitauri ship from Avengers. The big one.
A little bit.
Came around the corner of the building chasing Iron Man.
Well, based on that description, it would probably move as fluidly as that.
Yeah.
But and then there's a different picture above it, which looks like an orange something.
A lot of heat off that thing.
Yeah, you have no idea what that is, and the one above that's even more useless. So yeah, it's a very, very unique shape to a craft.
But the one at the bottom definitely looks like nothing that is normal that you would see in the sky.
No, not at all. And that line of lights, that sky train, as it were, it looks like in that particular image that it's straight. It's not bent or anything like that. It's very, very unusual. Very unusual. And yeah, that's my pick for the craft this week. The train.
I never thought that we'd actually come up with one that was called the train or looked like a train. You know?
Come on, ride the train.
You know,
let's ride it.
Whoop, whoop. I suppose you think of traditional shapes, but something like a train shape or a train configuration, it's very much out of the norm. Okay, Brad, thank you.
You are absolutely welcome, sir.
All right, let's move on to picks. Picks. That's the picks thing. Okay, never mind. That was a failure. Okay.
It was not a failure.
Thank you. Thanks for being nice. My pick, I'm going to start with the picks this week. My pick is a short film called Closer. And I always pick a short film when I realize the day of the recording of the podcast that I didn't watch anything or read anything or play anything. I wasn't prepared. So I go on to Vimeo, and I'm usually able to find a really cool short film, as was the case today. And this is the synopsis of the short film. It's about 10, 15 minutes long. Something terrifying is happening to the Earth. Luke and Sarah, unaware of the danger, are just worried about having a passionate offhand camping weekend. He is more than she is. Two unexpected guests will ruin their plans, and that's pretty much all they give you for the description. I will tell you more about it. It's a cool short film that they did a really good job as far as the special effects go. Everything else kind of sucked. The acting sucked, although I'm going to give it to him for a couple of laughs because this guy was like a horny bastard. He had one thing in mind and one thing only. He was there to get it on with this girl. But she's like leading him on. She's like, get the fire started, then we can get in the tent. Blah blah blah.
Oh
so,
yeah.
That was a funny scene. And then he also had nice touch. They also had a He also had a Teen Wolf T-shirt on. And then at the very end, when he was saying goodbye, because there was basically a bad alien and a good alien, and the movie actually started in space, right around the moon, and these two ships are like chasing after each other, one firing on the other, and the battle eventually they reached the Earth. Actually, they both landed on the Earth right near where these two were camping, and there's a battle ensues, and he goes out and tries to get some wood for the fire. He's looking for wood, and he gets taken by the good alien. And they do something with his DNA to make him able to fight these evil aliens. So there's a big battle, big fight. The good alien gets knocked down, and he has to defend him and his girlfriend from this evil alien by some weird force field. Apparently they messed with his DNA to give him the power to create some kind of force field around him and his girlfriend. So it was cute. It was a cute film, and at the end, when the good alien was leaving, he puts up the Vulcan hand thing from Star Trek, and she tries to do it, and he just puts his hand down and gives up. So. It's called Close. It's a short film, and you can check it out on Vimeo. We'll have the link in the show notes of the podcast.
Nice.
And what was really weird is they both had like a European accent, but it looked like it was taking place in North America. Like they were both speaking English. Everything else was English, but they were they both spoke with like a European accent. That's kind of confusing.
Huh.
Yeah.
So the setting looked like it was in the States?
Yeah. I don't know.
That's very interesting.
All right, let's move on to Brad, and I think I saw something. Vanessa, did you post something on Facebook about this movie?
I've been posting about sci-fi movies that we've watched over the weekend.
Yeah, we sat down and did like a marathon of them.
Really? Okay.
Yeah, because we watched one on Saturday morning, which is my pick, and then Sunday morning, Alex was watching TV, and then he went to go watch stuff on his computer. So I'm like, I'll go through my Amazon queue and see what else is there, because I don't really watch Amazon a whole lot. And I just started playing a movie, and then, 3 or 4 movies later, we're like, okay, we're done for today. It was 3 movies, because one of them we watched 15 minutes, and we had to quit.
Oh, it was awful. It was from 1962, and it was like if you were to get people to do horrible imitations of Abbott and Costello and Groucho Marx and take everything that was so good about their performances and then pee all over them, that's what this film was. It was just awful.
And that was
absolutely awful.
Invasion of the Star something people? I don't remember exactly the title. I'd have to look
I've
it up.
blocked it from my mind. It was so dreadful.
I have a thought about these older, kind of cheesier sci-fi movies that I want to do with. I'll tell you more after we talk about your picks. So go ahead.
Okay, so this film is Killers from Space. Now, that sounds like. At this particular point in time in cinema, they were doing sci-fi films, and to put butts in seats, they had to make such a provocative title to get people interested to see these things. Like the poster is Earth Attacked, Killers from Space, starring Peter Graves.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
I'm watching the film, and I'm like, gosh, he looks so familiar. And this movie was done it was released, in 1954. So it is a young Peter Graves. And Peter Graves plays the part of Doug Paul Martin. And I'm going to give you a little bit of the plot summary from IMDb on this. Atomic scientist / pilot Doug Martin is missing after his plane crashes on a reconnaissance mission after a nuclear test. Miraculously appearing unhurt at a base later, he is given sodium amythol, but authorities are skeptical of his story that he was captured by aliens determined to conquer the Earth with giant monsters and insects. Martin vows to use existing technology to destroy them. Now, I'm certain that you have questions. Question number 1. Why would a reconnaissance mission check out a nuclear test area? Well, this was actually a real thing, and I'm somebody who likes to watch like 50s duck and cover videos and things like that, movies. Movies on video. Obviously, they weren't videos at the time. But they would, in order to study nuclear energy, to study the effects of a nuclear blast on fallout and everything, they would, after the launch and successful detonation of a nuclear bomb, they would fly around the cloud and measure fallout and radiation and get all these readings. So this was an actual real thing that they would do.
I'm sure that was safe, too.
Totally.
I remember watching one duck and cover type video, and they're like, and now we have a formula where we can wash down the planes, and they're reusable within a few hours, because they had to hose off the radiation as best they could so that the pilots wouldn't, die from exposure, just flying in the planes. Yeah, that's scary stuff. So with Peter Graves, what ends up happening is the airplane all of a sudden just disappears, and it's presumed that the pilot is dead. He comes stumbling back to the base, and he's okay, except he's got this odd sort of an L-shaped scar over the left side of his chest. We come to find out, and he keeps seeing these weird large eyes, and by large eyes I mean they carved up a couple of ping pong balls, put black spots on them, and then crammed them over their own eyes to look scary. I don't know if that worked in 1954, but I thought that was the funniest damn thing I ever saw. And I don't want to wreck anything, because I honestly think if you are a person who enjoys looking at the history of sci-fi, comparing where we've come from to where we are now, and I've talked about this in previous episodes, to me that is just so fascinating to see the types of acting, the types of scripts that were deemed shootable at that time, and then comparing them to things now. I mean, you look at Jupiter Ascending is not doing very well in the theater from everything that I've been able to gather at this point in time. And the budget on that compared to what the budget would have been, even adjusting for inflation, is ridiculously lopsided. And it sounds like this might have been more entertaining than seeing Jupiter Ascending, even though it is a visual extravaganza. So anyways, check it out. I think we saw this on Amazon Prime, and if you're a Prime member, you can check this out for free, or I don't remember how much it would cost just to. It was just free. You didn't have to buy it on Amazon, did you?
Yeah, it's free for Prime members, and I think if you wanted to, I'm trying to remember, because we watched several movies and a couple of them weren't available to rent, but you could buy them, and they were like around $6 or $7 to purchase.
Okay.
Well, this movie might be available also on archive.org. There's a lot of 60s, 1950s science fiction films on Archive that are completely free that you can watch.
Yeah, and there's a channel on the Roku. I can't remember what it is now because I haven't used the Roku in a while, but it's got all of the old sci-fi or just black and white movies. You can search by genres, and it's probably a lot of the stuff that's on archive.org, and that's free too. So if you have Roku, I'll try to think of the name of the channel. And
And
mention that next
here,
episode.
for those of you watching the video, here is the poster from Killers from Space.
Yeah, ping pong balls.
They are ping pong balls. Wasn't even making that up.
It was great. Because sometimes, like, the ping pong ball, they didn't quite draw the center of the eye just right, so you'd have one kind of, like, looking off to the upper left.
Yeah.
They had a stray ping pong ball or two.
It was very interesting. The amount of pseudoscience thrown around, the bits of misogyny that were acceptable at that point in time as opposed to what would be acceptable now. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Having the cliche of a thinking pipe for a physicist, very, very funny. And Peter Graves, played it as serious as you could. This wasn't a comedy. This was meant to be a suspense sci-fi film. But there were some parts of it you just couldn't help but MST3K it.
Well, we can blame those guys for giving us the urge to make fun of a movie such as that, which I'm sure at the time was a great movie, or not great, but entertaining.
Well, good for its time period. Yes,
yeah.
I'm sure it was considered a very good film, and IMDb gives it 3.1 stars out of 10. I would give it they're doing a scale of 10. I would give it a solid 6.
Okay.
And really more from just enjoying that historical element to watching older sci-fi films, which I'm unabashedly enjoy. So, anyways, yeah. So that's my pick: Killers from Space, 1954.
All right, let's move on to Anessa's, also part of the weekend sci-fi marathon over at the
Yeah.
house.
My pick is the evil brain from outer space, which I just found out, like, before this show. I went onto Wikipedia just to kind of look a little bit about it, more background information, and apparently, well, it's from 1964, but it is a film that was edited together for American television from a Japanese series of short films. So films 7, 8, and 9 of the Supergiant short films that were filmed back in 1958. So I thought that was really interesting that they just took this show and edited pieces from a few episodes and sent it over to the States. But anyway, the description on IMDb says, a monstrous evil brain from outer space leads his minions on a crusade to conquer the universe and unleashes hideous monsters on Earth that spread deadly diseases. Superhero Starman must rescue the Earth from the menace of the evil brain while battling armies of monsters the brain sends against him. And it's great because I saw the intro and it's on Starman's planet, which I don't recall if they mentioned the name or not. I'm pretty sure they did. And you have people in costumes, and one of them looks like a guy. He looks like a star, just the way that the material is cut and his arms are extended. And then you've got people with masks, and they're sitting around this curved table. It's not circular, it's more like a horseshoe-shaped type table. And you've got people that are like moving their arms, just slowly waving them up and down and across, and just think like a slow version of Vogue, maybe. Just slow it down a bit. And they're discussing the issue with this brain from outer space, like going to Earth and trying to destroy the people of Earth and whatnot. And they're like, we have to go save Earth. And so Hero, Starman, who's wearing this spandex type suit, very tight, and he's got like, I'm guessing it's probably sequined, but there's a V that goes down the middle of his chest. And he has skinny antenna that comes up like around the hairline because he's wearing the suit. It covers his hairline. You don't see his hair or anything. So this teeny tiny antenna that just goes straight back with a tiny little ball on the back. And his costume's awesome, by the way. And when he flies, he's got like little pieces of material hanging down, and you can see the suspension wires that he's hanging from like coming out of the back of his costume when he's flying, and the material's hanging downwards rather than out. Like if you're flying, it's not going to hang down, right? And so yeah, it was really, I really enjoyed it, and I'm curious to know if these other films, these other short films, are out there to watch, hopefully with subtitles, because I don't know Japanese.
I have to say that I watched another movie based on these shows called Attack from Space on archive.org one day. I didn't watch the whole thing. I started watching it, but it stars Starman.
Okay,
nice.
Cool. Yeah, I'm going to have to look these up because I really want to see more. I really enjoyed it. The fight scenes were choreographed. They were kind of slow-paced and, you know, kind of cheesy. It's like, pow, but I still have like 6 inches between you and my fist, and you're just going to go flying back and foot through the wall. But yeah, it was a lot of fun. And Starman could change form from his suit to looking all dapper and, you know, like nice slacks and a hat and a coat. And he would go and he would help people that are being attacked by these monsters that are being created from the germs from this brain, essentially. And you've got like the mad scientist, and then you've got the good scientist, and the good scientist is trying to figure out a way to find a cure for these viruses that are going out and killing people. So
the thing to understand is these viruses are actually beings. They're like
they're beings, like
humanoids.
Yeah, they are beings. They're created from like cells from the brain and brain cells, and they just end up getting mutated into these creatures that go around and attack people, and it's great. I'd really recommend it. I enjoyed it anyway. So
okay, all right, cool. I have an idea for our website. I'm really seriously thinking about doing is putting together a playlist of movies from archive.org, and they're all going to be from outer space. I'm going to try to find a list or compile a list of all the movies that are available in public domain that are from outer space, because there's got to be a whole bunch of them, don't you think?
Oh yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah. And then just make it so people can go on our website and just click and watch movies. That'd be kind of cool.
Nice.
Yep.
All right, that is it for picks, and that is it for this episode of the Alien Invasion. For more, go to alieninvasion.galacticnetcast.com. Watch our episodes on youtube.com/galacticnetcasts. Search for us on iTunes, Stitcher, and the TuneIn radio app. If you do iTunes, make sure that you leave 5 stars. If you like the show, and leave a positive review. That helps us get more listeners. Leave feedback by emailing galacticnetcasts@gmail.com or call 805-328-3966. And, you know, if I'm running down this stuff too fast, don't worry. Just go to galacticnetcast.com, and all the information, all the links are right there. All right? That is it for this edition of the Alien Invasion podcast. As we do every single episode, final thoughts. Brad, you always go first.
Boy, you can't see it right now, but my table is finished for computer and mixing board, so it didn't get finished for today's show, but
I see the microphone stand or microphone holders, whatever they're called.
Yep, the scissor arm mics are right behind me, and then off to the other side is one of the other shelving units that we need to kind of get books and other things up and out of the way to kind of better use the space in this room so we can accommodate podcasting and having people in here as guests.
Excellent. Looking forward to the final product.
Oh, you and me both.
All right. It's been a long road. Long, hard.
Yes.
All right, Anessa, you close out the show. What do you got? Final thought?
I made a zucchini soup this evening, and it was actually pretty tasty.
All right. You put the recipe online?
I was going to say people can go to All Recipes, and I think it's like slow-cooked zucchini soup. And it's got like Italian sausage and tomato and onion and bell pepper and whatnot. All the things that I love in a bowl of happiness.
Think a vegetarian Italian chili. Okay, except it's not entirely
not vegetarian, except for the sausage.
Except for the sausage. It's spectacular. It's the consistency of chili, not soup. So it's amazing. Give it a try.
Okay. All right. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we're out of here. Alien Invasion signing off.
Boom. Done.
Bye.
Bye.